I want to tell you about the Sunday I found out my parents had paid for my brother's college education. Not partially. Not with a contribution. In full. 4 years of tuition, room, board, books and fees at a state university. Paid in full by my parents. While I spent 8 years paying off student loans for the same category of education at a comparable institution. I want to be precise about the timeline because the timeline matters. My brother Ryan is 3 years younger than me. I went to college first. My parents sat me down before my freshman year and told me they were not in a position to help with tuition. They said they were sorry. They said money was tight. They said they believed in me and they knew I would figure it out. I figured it out. I took out loans. I worked 20 hours a week during the school year and 40 hours a week every summer. I graduated with $41,000 in student loan debt. I spent the next 8 years paying it off. The last payment cleared 14 months ago. I remember the day clearly because I had been waiting for it for 8 years and I took myself out to dinner to celebrate. 3 years after I graduated, Ryan started college. My parents never mentioned paying for it. Ryan never mentioned my parents paying for it. I never asked because it did not occur to me to ask. I had assumed my parents had told him the same thing they had told me. Money is tight. We believe in you. Figure it out. Ryan figured it out differently. Ryan's parents paid for it. I found out on a Sunday in March. My parents, Ryan and I were all at my parents' house for my father's birthday. We were at the dinner table. Ryan was talking about his finances. He said something about being glad he had graduated debt-free. I said, "I'm sorry, what did you say?" He said he had graduated without any student debt. I said, "How?" He looked at my parents. My parents looked at each other. My mother said they had been in a better position by the time Ryan started. I said, "A better position?" She said, "Financially." I said, "You were in a better financial position 3 years after telling me you couldn't help me with tuition." She said things had changed. I said, "What things?" She was quiet. My father said the market had been good to them in those years. I said the market had been good to them. He said yes. I said, "So when you told me you couldn't help me with tuition, the market had not yet been good to you?" He said that was right. I said, "And 3 years later when Ryan started college, the market had been good to you and you paid for his education in full?" He said yes. I said, "And at no point in the 8 years I spent paying off $41,000 in student loans did either of you think to mention this?" My mother said she had thought about it. I asked her what she had thought when she thought about it. She said she had thought it would upset me. I told her she had been correct. I left shortly after dinner. I drove home. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment building for about 20 minutes. I thought about the summer I worked 40 hours a week at a job I did not like so I could make loan payments. I thought about the apartment I did not take because the rent was too high. I thought about the trip I did not take. I thought about the choices I had made inside a financial reality my parents had created for me without telling me it was not the same financial reality they were going to create for my brother. I called my best friend. She said, "That is insane." I said, "I know." She said, "What are you going to do?" I said I did not know yet. I called my parents 2 days later. My mother answered. I told her I had been thinking about the conversation at dinner. She said she had been thinking about it too. I told her I needed to understand something. I told her I understood that financial situations change. I told her I understood that the money they had when Ryan started was not the money they had when I started. I told her I did not understand why no one had told me, not when Ryan started. Not when Ryan graduated. Not at any point in the 8 years I was paying off a debt that my brother had not been asked to carry. My mother said they had not wanted to make me feel bad. I told her I felt bad now. She said she was sorry. I told her sorry was a starting point. I asked her what she thought the right thing to do was. She was quiet for a long time. She said she supposed they could have helped me more at some point. I told her at some point had passed. The loans were paid off. The 8 years were done. What I was sitting with was not a financial request. What I was sitting with was the knowledge that my parents had watched me carry a debt for 8 years that they could have helped reduce and had chosen not to tell me they were in a position to help. My mother said they had not thought of it that way. I asked her how they had thought of it. She said they had thought Ryan's situation was Ryan's situation and mine was mine. I told her Ryan's situation and mine had started from the same conversation at the same kitchen table about the same family's finances, and the outcomes had been completely different and the difference had never been mentioned. She said she understood. I asked her if she had talked to my father. She said yes. I asked what he had said. She said he felt terrible. I said feeling terrible was also a starting point. Ryan called me that evening. He said he had not known I didn't know. I told him I believed him. He said he had assumed my parents had told me. I told him I understood. I told him I was not angry at him. He said he was sorry anyway. I said I knew. He said if he had known he would have said something. I told him I believed that too. I do believe it. Ryan did not create this situation. Ryan had been given a gift and had not been told it was different from what his sister had been given. I do not blame Ryan. What I keep coming back to is the dinner table. Not the original dinner table where my parents told me money was tight. The birthday dinner table. My father's birthday. Ryan talking about being debt-free. My parents looking at each other. That look. That was not the look of two people who had forgotten. That was the look of two people who had been waiting 8 years for this conversation and hoping it would not happen. My parents have offered to give me money. They have not said how much. I have not asked. I do not know what the right number is. I do not know if there is a right number. I do not know if money is what I am actually looking for. What I am looking for is something that money cannot give me, which is the 8 years back and the choices I did not make and the trip I did not take and the apartment I did not rent and the version of my 20s that existed on the other side of $41,000. That is not available. So I am sitting with what is available. Which is an offer of money and 2 parents who feel terrible and a brother who is sorry, in a question I have been asking myself for 3 weeks. Was I wrong to bring it up at the dinner table? Or did finding out my parents paid for my brother's education while I spent 8 years on loans answer that question before the birthday cake was even served? Down finger, drop your verdict in the comments. NTA or YTA? Bell, subscribe to the verdict for new stories every week. Because every story deserves a verdict.